Christians have known that cashless society was coming for 2,000 years. So this is not news to us. All this digital news and, cryptocurrency news is actually old news to Bible-believing, prophecy-following Christians. But while it's not new to us, the idea still evokes fear of the last days. The Christians got on another bandwagon. Electronic banking and ATMs are the mark of the beast. This must be so demonic. And now what? How many of you have even see your cash, touch your cash? Your cash is stored electronically. It's being moved electronically. It's being paid to you electronically. No physical cash is even being changed, right? Or exchanged. The idea that virtual money is the mark of the beast, I think, would mean that every single human right now has the mark of the beast. And that's not true. Virtual money, I have news for you, was in fact invented by the church. Did you know that? You have come to the right place because this is stuff you won't commonly hear about. Virtual money was invented by the church. Why? Why? We had the smartest people in the world in finances, in science, in math, in every field of knowledge who called Jesus their Lord. And back in the day when the Muslims took over the main centers of Christianity and they finally took over Jerusalem, the Christians pushed back against this invasion in a defensive move called the Crusades. A lot of people think the Crusades are offensive. In fact, when you read the history books, often you can read entire pages about the Crusade and never hear the word Muslim. It's really weird. It just says, the Crusaders invaded Jerusalem. Oh, wait a second. What happened to the story, the backstory, that the Muslims had massacred all the Jews and Christians in many centers of Christianity, driven them out from historically Christian places and Jewish places, and then defensively, nobody did anything for a while. And finally, somebody with guts and courage, the Christian crusaders, decided, our brothers are dying. You know what it's like? When we watched the massacre of Christians in Syria, and nobody did anything. Until now, really, nobody did anything. Russia did more for those Christians than America and Australia did. And now that ISIS is defeated in Syria, they're taking the credit. Actually, Russia did more. Russia did not hesitate to annihilate those terrorists. So it is exactly like that, where Christians were getting beheaded and expelled, their wealth was being confiscated, and no Christian in Europe was doing anything. And they decided, let's start a defensive, let's go and rescue and help our Christian brothers and sisters and families that are stuck out there in the Middle East. So they went ahead and did that in the First Crusade, and they took back Jerusalem in 1099. And so what happened with that is European pilgrims started streaming into Jerusalem. But there were risks associated with carrying lots of money to fund the months of food and travel and accommodation. This was a problem. How do you travel that long, that far, and carry all the cash that you need just to survive? So there were some Christians called the Knight Templars who dedicated themselves to the defense of the Christian pilgrims. I'm not here to talk about the order of the Knight Templars and any conspiracy theories about them. I'm just saying there was a practical need at that time. That's all I'm focused on. Christians wanting to travel to Jerusalem now that it's been freed. And it was freed only temporarily. And so the Knight Templars invented a system whereby the Christian pilgrims could leave their cash at Temple Church in London, which still stands today, and then by some secret code or some verification process, they could arrive at Jerusalem and withdraw cash. So they carried with them not real cash, but virtual money. So this was the first bank and the first virtual currency. Virtual currency, it was invented to solve a problem. And that's why it exists, and that's why it's going to continue to exist. Thus was born the first cashless asset. The Templars then transferred money between businesses and even royalty, and they ended up brokering deals between even nations. So the Christians were known for financial wisdom, And the world came to the Christian church to get help financially. Is that amazing? Hasn't been that long ago, and now everything is reversed. Now most Christians feel completely powerless, don't understand the financial system, and freak out about virtual money, not even understanding that historically we invented it. It's amazing how much light comes to your mind when you just study a little bit of history. Can you say amen? Now the problem was the Muslims did not give up, so they went forth and had many crusades. Eventually in 1244 the European Christians lost control of Jerusalem to the Muslims, and the Templars then disbanded in 1312. So this nascent cashless society, this nascent virtual money that started, it kind of disappeared, or they were no longer the guardians of the system. What happened next? The invention of virtual money then passed to an Italian entrepreneur whose name is now forgotten in history. But what happened? Why was there virtual money even after the Crusades? In the ancient world, transporting and trading loads of silver and gold faced 4 constant problems. So they didn't have paper money, they used silver and gold as money. Number 1 problem you can imagine is security. Bandits and pirates would steal what you carried around. Then there was the problem of coin shaving. So merchants would intentionally devalue their money by shaving the edges of the coin and, stealing from the people by devaluing the currency. The third problem was corruption. As you travel, you will often encounter government officials who would ask for bribes to let you through or let you trade. And then lastly, we have sovereign devaluation, which is when monarchs manipulated their own currency. So these were the 4 problems of the ancient world. What was the solution? It was agreed in Lyon, France, that this one Italian man would keep a ledger that was distributed to a network of insiders. Listen to me carefully, because once you understand this, you will understand blockchain. It is not new, it is old. So this one man spent all day signing and dating the ledger. Each copy of the ledger had to agree with each other. And thus was created a private insider currency, which was called the écu de marque in French, which was merely a ledger entry. No money needed to change hands. The écu de marque was treated as real money, even though no one could touch it or hold it or see it. When a merchant or a banker wanted to make a deal or process a loan or exchange money, no physical money had to be involved. It was simply done by a ledger entry. 1 million French livres, or about 192 million US dollars, flowed through this one man's hand per day, and he charged his clients 1.5% fee for his ledger entry. So this man was the richest man in Lyon and probably all of Europe. And the bankers and the merchants were very happy for this trustworthy system. The invention of the écu de marque, or a credit note that was not denominated in any national currency like the French livre or the Italian lira, made transactions safe, secure, and free from government manipulation. It couldn't be debased by the government or stolen by bandits. It was a brilliant invention that made this Italian scribe a fortune. Today, 500 years later, we face similar problems as people did back then. It is slow and expensive to move money through the banks. I was just at the bank recently and I just couldn't believe. It was Friday, I was there before the bank closed. I said I want to make a transfer, and they said it will take at least 3 days. I said, are you kidding? There's nothing that we wait for 3 days anymore. And the bank is not closed, your computer is on, what's the problem? And they said, that's our system. So this is a problem that is now being solved by blockchain and cryptocurrency. Right? These are not things that are airy-fairy. These are not just bubbles in the sky. These are real applications that are trying to solve real problems. That's where they get their value from. When you solve somebody's problem, you create value. So money moving through banks and merchant payment gateways are slow, as we've all experienced. Politicians and bankers print money without any asset banking, and so it has no intrinsic value. Politicians print money without limit, which is a form of taxation without representation or consent of the people, because our money becomes worth less year by year, and that's called inflation. If you don't realize that, inflation is a way to add to your taxes. So if your tax is 38%, but inflation is 2%, you're really being taxed at 40%. It's another way of subtle taxation, but because you don't really feel bothered about it, they do it that way instead. They inflate the monetary supply, making your wealth decrease day by day. That is a corrupt, unethical way of dealing with money. And of course, there's devaluation of money, inflation, we explained that. So introducing Bitcoin. What is Bitcoin? It is virtual currency stored on a digital ledger called the blockchain. That's all it is. The blockchain is a ledger. Bitcoin is mined by powerful computers. A block of Bitcoins can be mined every 10 minutes. Only 21 million Bitcoins will ever be mined, so it is an honest, finite supply of a digital asset. So far, supercomputers have mined 16 million Bitcoins. In other words, we who are interested in mining are competing to mine the last 5 million Bitcoins. So I have a happy announcement to make. We are the first church in Australia to accept Bitcoin. You can donate your Bitcoin profits anywhere in the world, all right, securely, safely, to this QR code or to the address that's at discover.org.au/give. And we're happy to announce we are the first church in Australia and probably in all of Asia to accept donations, your generosity, in Bitcoin and Ethereum. Right? So Ethereum is another big cryptocurrency, and we're happy to receive that. If you're investing prudently, you're making profits and gain, you shouldn't forget God. You should still think about tithing your profits to God. So this is not even being talked about because so many pastors are either afraid or uninformed about it. And I'm saying to you, pastors, we're not trying to be the only one. You can join us, but right now we are leading the charge. Okay? This is virtual cash. That's all it is right now.